My name is David Nachman. I'm the managing attorney at Nachman and Associates PC, also referred to as the Visaserve team. We have offices located in New York, New Jersey, and in Canada. We assist highly skilled business professionals to transfer to and from the United States from throughout the world. I'd like to spend a couple of minutes telling you a little war story about a naturalization interview that I had the other day. It's not oftentimes that I have a chance to communicate great stories about interviews that I have with my clients at the immigration office. As many of you may be aware, the naturalization application process is one where you fill out an N-400 form and you submit it to the Citizenship and Immigration Service. Then you are notified, usually about 6 months to a year after you submit that application, to come for an interview. There are several issues that are addressed in a naturalization application interview. One of them, of course, is knowledge of civics. The other is ability to write English. Another is ability to understand English. And another, of course, is good moral character. Now, my colleague Victoria Donahue here in our office will be doing a more extensive blogging about the naturalization process, but I wanted to share, again, an interesting war story with you. The other day I went down to the Citizenship and Immigration Service district office on what was the second interview with a client of ours. The first interview, the officer passed that client on their ability to write English and their civics. They checked off on one of the boxes that there was a question regarding their ability to understand English. So we went to the interview. We showed up there after waiting about 2 hours after the appointment time for the interview. The officer called us in, and we sat down. The officer proceeded to ask several questions to my client, and my client, whose English was not the greatest, although she did work very hard to understand English and actually worked on a weekly basis with our staff. She came to our office and worked with our staff, and we gave her, in a way, personal lessons about some of the things that she's going to need for the interview. So the officer proceeded to ask her several questions, and one of the things that the officer did was that as he was asking our client questions, he often turned his face to the side, which made it very difficult for our client to understand the words that he was enunciating, because, of course, our client's first language was not English. And I had asked the officer if he could turn to face my client so that my client could understand the words and see the way he was pursing his lips, because that obviously has to do with helping her understand English. He proceeded to ask her several questions, to which many of them she responded, albeit very slowly. She oftentimes looked over to me because she was used to the way I enunciated. But of course, being the attorney in the interview, I was not able to speak for her. However, I did point out to the officer that it would be helpful if he could further enunciate some of the words. And I also helped to guide her to understand that if there was something that she did not understand, that she should ask the officer to repeat it. So that's, of course, some of the value that we can add if we attend a naturalization interview where there might, in fact, be an issue with regard to a person's ability to understand English. Well, the interview proceeded, and it seemed like things were not going so well. The officer seemed extremely agitated, and then proceeded to ask my client, "What is allegiance?" Now, I've been in other interviews before, one of the interviews where they've asked my client, "What is the oath?" And that was a bit of a curveball for me, because I've never thought of what a synonym for the word oath is. A synonym for the word oath, the officer pointed out to me in that earlier naturalization interview, was that they were looking for the word swear. So now we can prepare our clients to say that if someone says, "What is the oath?" that they understand that it means to swear. But when they asked about allegiance, I didn't think I even knew what a good synonym was for allegiance, and neither did my client, of course. So the officer, again, became very agitated and was looking to deny the case. So I really didn't feel at that point that things were going very well and we didn't have anything to lose. So I said to the officer, okay, I said, as he was about to type up the denial of the interview application, I said to him, double or nothing. And the officer looked at me and said, okay, counsel. And he said to our client, if you sign this application for naturalization, will you be relinquishing a position of nobility in your home country? To which my client turned to him and said, no. And the officer looked back at my client and said, okay, explain to me what is nobility. Well, needless to say, my client's lips were quivering. I, of course, could barely sit still. And the officer was sitting there thinking that he, of course, had it in the bag and he was going to continue writing up the denial. My client turned to him and said, important position. The officer turned then to my client and said, I'll give you that, and proceeded to write up the approval notice for my client's naturalization, which occurred that day. She received her naturalization certificate and has now applied for her U.S. passport. So it's a great war story and shows you a couple of ways in which lawyers can add value if they attend the interviews with their clients. And also a great story for those of you who are leery about applying for your citizenship, your N-400 applications, if you have any concerns about your ability to read, speak, or understand English.